Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Med School Minutes podcast, where we discuss what it takes to attend and successfully complete a medical program. This show is brought to you by St. James School of Medicine. Here is your host, Kaushik Gua.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Med School Minutes, where we talk about everything MD related with a focus on international students, specifically Caribbean students. Today we have a very special guest, and she is specifically special because this is the first time we're having a guest come back on our show, and we really appreciate her making the time for it. Her name is Kelley Hurley. She is a 4-time Olympian and medalist, and is currently a clinical student at St. James School of Medicine. So without further ado, let's welcome Kelley Hurley. Welcome back, Kelley Hurley. And before we begin, I want to tell you that you have the distinction of being the first guest who's come back on our podcast twice. So,
oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we're really thrilled about that. But we really wanted to talk to you because obviously we've been tracking you and your journey right from the beginning. And as I mentioned, that we were also thrilled when you cleared Step 1 and are about to embark on your clinical rotation. So briefly, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, because a lot of people may not necessarily know who you are. So let's give them a little bit of an introduction.
Of course. Well, I'm Kelley Hurley, and I just passed my Step 1, which was very, very exciting. But so I am a 4-time Olympic athlete in a sport called fencing, which is, a pretty unique sport, a very interesting sport, but not a lot of people have seen it. So check it out because it's actually a really awesome sport. But so I've been to 4 Olympics. My last one was 2021 in Tokyo. And I actually started medical school with St. James when COVID actually just started up because the Olympics was supposed to originally happen in 2020. And I was all qualified for it. I was ready to go. And then all of a sudden it got put on hold. And so I just thought, I don't know, maybe the Olympics will be canceled. There was a lot of talk about possibly canceling the Olympics. And I thought, well, I guess I might as well start medical school, which has always been a dream of mine, but it's always been kind of on hold because fencing full-time or any kind of sport full-time at the level that I was fencing at, it just took up all of my time and energy. But so I thought that during COVID was a perfect time to start. And I am just so happy that I did. However, the Olympics did end up happening in 2021. And so I had to take a semester off to, start training again and actually compete. But then after that ended, I actually got 5th place, which was really, really awesome. Was a really good result. And I finished up basic sciences after that on the island.
I know.
So classes resumed on the island at that point, and that was really exciting to do basic sciences on like a beautiful Caribbean island. Couldn't ask for much more than that. And so
that's awesome. And you keep mentioning that, and fencing at the level that I fence at. I mean, you should mention that this is the highest level, right? I mean, is there any Olympics? I don't know that there's anything higher than Olympics.
I guess technically in the fencing world, there's not. It's not like football where I don't know. Football's not in the Olympics, but soccer where soccer's in the Olympics. But I think the World Cup is probably considered bigger. It's not like that. Like the Olympics is like, the top of the fencing world. So yes. Exactly. And I've been competing up at that level for, 4 Olympic cycles. So 4, 8, 12, 16 years.
Right. And so it really seems like you talked about the island. It really seems like you really enjoyed your experience at the island.
I really
Um,
did. Yes.
and can you tell us a little bit about, what you felt like when you came to the island the first time round?
Yeah, well, I was really lucky. My boyfriend, my long term boyfriend, and my two dogs and my two cats, we took everybody down to the island. He moved down there with me, so I had my whole family kind of with me, um, which I think is the reason why I enjoyed it so much in particular. I wasn't missing anybody too much back at home,
Right,
so I could really, and my partner like really made things easy for me so I could just focus on studying.
right,
So he took care of like, the apartment and the animals, and yeah,
right,
he just made things a lot easier for me to focus on just studies. And
right,
yeah, so it was really awesome having all my babies down there with me.
right.
And yeah.
When you were on the island, you obviously had a great time, but you also, as you mentioned, you prepared for the Olympics.
Mhm.
And I remember in your last podcast, you clearly told us how much time that took. That's not easy. You were spending about, at least if I recollect correctly, about 6 hours just on training, which includes
Yeah.
strength, weight, agility,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
obviously actual fencing. How did you make time to actually study? Because you did take one semester off, but then you continued on with your semesters and you progressed the way you're supposed to progress. I mean, we always recommend a student should be studying about 8 to 10 hours in total, including class hours, and then spend about 2 to 3 hours every day after class to just revising everything that happened. How did you manage to do it?
Well, there wasn't too many times where I had to balance the two because I specifically made it to where when I was studying, I wasn't having to worry about fencing and
Okay.
vice versa. Maybe when I was younger, I would, consider juggling the two, but
Okay.
now in my 30s, I ain't about that life. I'm not trying to kill
Okay.
myself. Um, but definitely like the amount of time, commitment, motivation that I put into all of the training, that helped immensely in medical
Okay.
school. That amount of dedication that is needed.
Right.
There's a lot of similarities between my training and studying for medical school. A lot.
Okay. Can you unpack that for us a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. So, there's things called burnout. There's just like being able to make yourself sit down and do the work, knowing that you have to put in the work. I mean, finding the desire within you, because there are times when medical school will test your resolve, and
Okay.
it's the same thing in fencing. I mean, there are times when things aren't going so well, but it really tests your resolve. You have to find the reason why you really want to do this and be able to pull yourself out of it, and to know what hard work it takes to commit to something, and to want to be the best at something, or to want to be successful. There's the level of work and commitment that is required, and since I've been so used to doing that all these years for my sports,
Right.
making the switch over, it felt very natural. Being able
Right.
to change my focus to something that was also needs a lot of dedication, motivation, support, work, hard work, putting in the hours. Very similar.
Right. 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 Um, I also want to talk a little bit about. You said that your partner who came with you made things extremely easy for you, in the sense that you didn't have to focus on a lot of peripheral things. Um, I mean, we always tell students that you have to have a strong support system, whether it's you talking to your mom or dad every night and just venting, or having someone with you like that. Can you comment on that a little bit? Like, how do you think it would have been any different had your partner not been there with you?
Well, first of all, if my partner hadn't been there, I wouldn't have been able to have my animals there and their
Right.
emotional support enough, So like just
Okay.
having that like gaping hole, missing my loves, like having that that stress added on top
Right.
of studying. Oh man. So just having that, like you said, a strong support, having emotional support, because medical school, it gets quite tough. It's tough just by itself, and then you add distance from your loved ones on top of it.
Right.
And the stress that you already feel from medical school is, quadrupled, because you're feeling homesick, you're feeling, lonely, you feel like you're in this alone. Like you have friends there at medical school, but, I don't want to say it's a competition per se, but, everyone has their nose down and everyone's trying to just, keep their head above water at certain points, throughout basic sciences and medical school in general. So to have somebody there that is supporting you and, trying to help in any way that they can, and just making life as easy as possible so that you can focus on the job at hand, and that is to pass basic sciences. Enough can't be said about having a strong support, and I was so lucky to have that. I mean, many of my classmates really, really struggled in the first 2 semesters of basic sciences just because they were lonely, and it was a hard change. It can be a hard change.
Yeah. And so it seems like you planned for this somehow, even before you came. What gave you that insight to do that? Or was this truly, I mean, what if you don't mind, why don't you just tell us what the name of your partner? Because he seems like he deserves a lot of credit here.
He would love this. His name is Casey.
Okay. So, was this Casey's idea that, hey, I'm going to be there and support you? Or did you have some insight that this is going to be hard from your sports training, that you needed that kind of support system? How did you come to the decision to get everybody over?
Yeah. So, both. From my experience with all the training and traveling I've had to do as an Olympic athlete, I know how important having a good support system is. So that's already that's very important, just in my sport. So, probably played a big part. Just like I said, there's so many things that can be that are similar between fencing at a high level like that and medical school. So there's that. But I'm also
fencing
lucky
at the highest level.
The highest level. You're right. Thank you. It's a good correction. The highest level. Yeah. So, and also, we've been dating for a long time. I mean, we're going on year 12 now. And
Wow.
he loves being able to come with me. He has tried, he went to Paris with me when I moved there for a little while.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to be able to have a partner that has adjusted their life, so that they can always be there to support you. I'm very lucky. And, when he saw the opportunity to go to a Caribbean island, he wasn't going to say no. So we both win in this relationship.
Right. Well, shout out to Casey for seeing you through this. This is amazing. But say, when you got admission, was there any hesitation? Was there oh, I don't know what Casey's going to think. I don't know if Casey's going to come with me. Was there any time that hesitation, or was it okay, you know what? I need you to come with me. Or Casey was I need to go with you because without me. Yeah, pardon?
Yeah, I mean, he just, it's been our partnership. I mean, we've been partners in this since the beginning, and it really is a team effort. I mean, he's as much a part of my successful fencing career as he has been in medical school. I mean, he's been a huge component of this whole thing. And as soon as I started medical school, I mean, he already knew his job, and he's been so great at it. I'm
That's
very
amazing.
lucky.
I mean, I think we should have Casey on sometime to just tell us, the emotional support. I mean, I'm actually being serious. The emotional support aspect of it, because he seems to be doing a really, really good job of it. Because this is a struggle that a lot of our students face, and this is a struggle that affects their performance. I've seen this in person.
It
because
can make or break
students,
many people.
yeah. And as you said, like he took care of everything because you don't have to worry about where your meals are coming from because it's been taken care of. You're not worried about your dogs being walked; it's being taken
Right.
care of. You're not worried about cleaning the house because somebody's taking care of that. And
He's
you
literally
know,
downstairs vacuuming right now.
oh, okay. and the best thing is that when you spend like classes 8 hours a day and then you have to come back and study for 2 to 3 more hours. I mean, there's a lot of venting that'll happen at that point. They're like, oh my God, I didn't understand this topic. And just having somebody to talk to, I think makes a huge difference. And as I said, I've seen it. I've seen it. However, there's also the flip side where we sometimes see that people are like, "Oh, I want to go home because I need to get that emotional support." Especially in MD5, we see a lot of students opt to do that. But when they go home, we see, the opposite, where scores are actually going down. They're actually doing worse. And then when we talk to the students, they're like, "Yeah, it's a lot of distraction." And I
So
think
many.
but I think what Casey's managed to do is I mean, it sounds like, and I don't necessarily want to put words in your mouth, but he's almost like your coach, so to speak, where he's kept you focused. And I think that in and of itself is quite a big deal because in a lot of times I've noticed from other students, the support system becomes a distraction. Like moms and dads are like, "Oh, hey, can you just go run this errand and pick up the groceries today?" Or, "Hey, can you just, I don't know, help me clean the refrigerator?" And that's valuable time away from your books.
For
So,
sure.
which
I
is
mean, it was a learning process through
okay.
all the time.
Right.
There are some tough moments, but for the most part, I would say he has it down pretty pat. I don't think like he ever regretted any of the decisions he's made to come with me and
Right.
support me and be there for me. So but definitely like, it's always a learning process for both of us, but
Right.
we are in it together. We've made
Right.
that commitment to each other. So
All right.
that's,
And now you're going to start clinicals. You're taking a short break, and you're starting clinicals in McAllen. What kind of information do you have, and what are you expecting?
well, I've been really trying to enjoy this little break that I had. That's for sure, because I have just been studying so much and
Right.
really haven't had a chance to, enjoy anything else. I just had to put my nose down and just block out all the distractions. Like you said, being at home it can be quite distracting. So there was
Right.
definitely a learning process there as to like how to balance or how to block noise out or, tell family like, hey, sorry guys, I can't hang out because I have to study. It was
Right.
hard on Casey too, because here I am at home. It seems like I should be able to
Yeah.
hang out and study, but I mean, hang out and, have fun every now and then. But like, even though he works at home and I'm at home studying, we like hardly ever saw each other. It's just like,
Wow.
just
And
locked in
you're
my
in the
room
same
studying.
apartment.
Same house.
Wow. I remember in our first podcast, we talked about, how I'd mentioned that, from what we've seen, the successful students study about 8 to 12 hours. And I remember you were chuckling at that and said, yeah, I don't know about that. What do you think about that now? Do you think that that's accurate?
In the beginning, it is, but I think when you start figuring out what works best for you,
Okay.
studying smarter is better than
Mm-hmm.
studying harder. Or really, if you
Okay.
can combine the two, it's even like really the best.
Right.
So
Right.
finding like very like just what really, really works for me so I can not waste time trying to do this or trying to do that because
Right.
so like nothing's being absorbed as well as when I found what works for me, what exactly works for me, what is directly improving my score. Once I found that out, which took me a while, but once I figured that out,
Right.
it was like a huge escalation of my score. And it is definitely a learning process to figure out what works best for you. But once you figure that out, I was not studying, I was studying about 6-7 hours a day, as opposed to like
That's
10.
not less.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I
not less,
gotcha.
but it's better than
Okay.
10.
Yeah.
So like, but I would
Awesome.
also take 2 days off a week. So
Okay.
those 2 days were so important. And I had people tell me like, oh, like I don't take any days off. I'm like you're only hurting yourself if you just completely
Yeah.
don't take any time to look away
That's
from your computer. You have to, your brain, you have to take some relaxation time, or else you'll burn out. And it's the same in
right. Right.
fencing. You
Okay.
have to be able to do things that you enjoy still, even if it's less than you normally do, but you have to do something because you'll drive
Right.
yourself crazy.
Awesome. And when it comes to your new aspect of the program, which is clinicals, which is completely different from your basic sciences, what are you expecting? Like, do you have enough information? Do you know what to expect? Do you think you know what to expect? Have you
I
spoken to other students who've gone through
Yeah,
this?
so I have. I actually, since it's literally a 3.5 hour drive away from here, I did drive
Right.
down there just to visit McAllen and to talk to some of my friends that are currently there. And they were super helpful. I mean, they talked to me for like 3 hours, 4 hours. We had dinner, and everyone just like told me about how the first 6 weeks of internal medicine is going and what to expect and how the preceptor is, and what to potentially get a head start on that they expect from you, and just really like helpful. Otherwise, I would have had zero idea,
Right.
zero. So it was
Okay.
super helpful. I'm
Okay.
glad I did that.
And and have you done any preparations based on that information, or?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have really tried to study how to take a history, because I'm finding out that
Okay.
that's extremely important. Um, I shadowed a
Oh,
doctor. Yeah.
okay.
I shadowed a doctor 3 times. Just
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, he was super helpful. He let me actually like perform physical exams. Super helpful. Like take blood pressure. Listen to some cardiac sounds. Like perform an
Wow.
actual physical exam for for all of his patients. It was super helpful, and also really embarrassing because there were some stupid mistakes that I made. But I'm
Well,
glad
but
I
that's
got
the whole
out.
point.
I'm
Yeah.
glad I got out with him.
Yeah. Well, that's expected. I mean, that's the whole thing. When you go into clinicals, you're not expected to be an expert. That's what the preceptor is really there for.
Right.
They're there to guide you. And that's what we always tell our students. This is where you learn. Have you put any thought in what specialty you would like to get into?
I mean,
Um,
I'm interested in gynecology,
okay.
and maybe surgery, but I assume once I start doing more rotations, I might get a better idea of what I like and don't like. But going into
Exactly.
it, that's what I'm currently interested in. That's how I planned my rotations, is to like have gynecology at a good time and surgery at a good time.
Okay. One thing I always advise students when they're going into the clinicals is that the cores are your cores. That's where you're really picking up the most important pieces of information to essentially decide what you want to do. But your electives are a very strong tool where you can potentially use that as a networking tool to plan and prepare which programs you're interested in, and even go and do electives in those programs directly. So if it's OB is something that you're interested in, you should go and think about doing OB rotations at a program that you're interested in. So that way you get to know the program director, program coordinators. So when you actually do apply, it's not a cold application anymore.
Right.
And
That's
especially
great
if you're
advice.
good. Yeah. So and we do allow that for our students. In fact, one of our students, we have a podcast with her. Her name is Dr. Torabi. I strongly recommend every student to see that, because she made only 28 applications and she got called for interviews at 26 of those. So and
Amazing.
that's what she said. She said that I networked, I did as many observerships and elective rotations as I could do in all the programs that I wanted, even if it was just flying out and meeting the program director for lunch. She's like, I did that, and that made a world of difference. And
Oh,
that's
I'm
what
sure.
and I mean, this year our match seems excellent. All of our students have multiple interviews in the teens, most of
Wow.
them. Yeah,
Amazing.
and I think that that's because we've really emphasized and focused on students' network, which is going to the various conferences, AAFP and all of those. So that's something I would recommend for you too while you're doing your OB rotation or rotations. If you're interested in surgery, go to the surgery national conference. Every specialty has its own conference. Go there. You will, in all likelihood, be possibly one of the few handful of students there. You will get so much of attention. But not just that, you will probably possibly be the only student from a Caribbean school, even if there are many other. And that's what a lot of our students said, that only St. James was there. There's no other school that's asking their students to go for these conferences. So I think it's well worth the time, because at the end of the day, people will prefer to hire somebody who they are familiar with. And just generally speaking, with your background and your personality, I don't think you will have any problem impressing anybody. So, I mean, I would strongly recommend doing these conferences if you can. And the best part about Texas is that Texas actually hosts, McAllen hosts a lot of these conferences too.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah. So lots of opportunities in McAllen. But
Awesome.
yeah. So generally speaking, right now, have you really zeroed in on where you're staying in McAllen? Did you finalize
Yeah.
your home? Okay.
Yep.
So all that is set, and you guys are
Yes.
just
Got
all
that
right.
done. Yeah. One less thing to worry about.
Yes. And are you taking your extended family in the way of your dogs and cats as well? Again?
Well, I heard that outpatient internal medicine is pretty crazy. So I'm going to take my cats because cats are easy. But
Okay.
my poor doggy, I'm afraid she'll just be sitting in the apartment for, 8 hours just by herself. So, yeah, she will not be coming with me in the very beginning, but definitely after.
Okay.
And my husband, well, I call him my husband, but it's just,
Okay.
there's not really a great word between boyfriend and partner. And I don't know, I haven't come up with a great name for him because, I'm 35. So to call him my
Right.
boyfriend just feels weird.
Right.
And we've been dating
Okay.
for 12 years, so.
Right.
But he has this house here in San Antonio. And so
Okay.
it's only 3.5 hours. So he's just going to make the drive, a bunch of times or stay down there for extended periods of time with me. So he won't be living with me like he was in Anguilla,
Got it.
but also kind of part-time.
Right. So, but I think that's all the questions we have. Thank you so much, Kelley, for your time. And as always, we wish you all the best. And, beyond your family and your animal family, please know that here in St. James, you have a big fan following also. Like, we all follow your career very, very closely. And even during the Olympics, we all sat together and we watched the Olympics. And one last question. What are your plans for the 5th Olympic? Are you
Right. Yeah. So the next Olympics is next year. And
yeah.
There's no way that I can qualify in time for that one. So
Got it.
2024 is pretty much done.
Uh-huh.
But the next Olympics is in 2028. It's in LA, which is pretty awesome. A US Olympics is pretty amazing.
Right.
So at the moment, like if I could just get into residency, or, at that point, 2028, that's still 5 years away, 4.5. So
right.
like I can make a jump in my career before I focus on the fencing part. So I'm hopeful for that one, but we'll see as time goes by.
Right. Well, we're going to keep our fingers crossed for you as well. So, but
Appreciate
awesome.
it.
Again, thank you so much for your time, Kelley. As always, it's such a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to the third time that I'll be back at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll definitely see that. Thank you so much for giving us the pointers as far as support system is concerned and having the discipline. So I guess you can take it from an Olympian that there are a lot of transferable skills in practicing a sport in the Olympics versus studying for the step ones. But irrespective, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate all the insights. And again, if you enjoyed the content of this particular episode, please feel free to check out our other episodes. You can get our podcast on any of your podcasts of choice, whether it's Spotify, Google, YouTube, you name it. Again, if this is something that you really enjoyed, please give us a like and give us a follow. This really, really goes a long way for us, and it really helps us do what we do. But again, remember, there is no shortcut to becoming an MD.
Thank you so much for tuning into our show. We hope you enjoyed another episode of Med School Minutes. If you like our content, please follow us and receive notification when a new show is posted. This podcast is brought to you by St. James School of Medicine. For a video version of this podcast, please check us out on sjsm.org/video.